Welcome back to the F1 2018 career mode here, and you join me for Season 1's Japanese Grand Prix. For those of you that were around for last year's game, you realise I rediscovered my love for this circuit. I've always really enjoyed it, but never really liked it on the video games too much. But since I did the massive remodelling, you know, the undulations, the corners, it was a joy to drive in last year's game, and this year's game is no different. But we come off the back of a few, you know, we're getting back in our rhythm. You know, we had a little bit of a slowdown mid-season, but we're getting back into a rhythm of strong, positive results, and we need to continue carrying that now that we are on a wave of momentum. Again, me versus Nico Hülkenberg, and of course the Force India versus the Renault team. We need to make sure that we continue that fight and pull as far ahead as we can in the development race, and of course over the rest of the season. But now we step into a qualifying. This is my second lap. First lap put me in P8 behind Sergio Perez. I wanted to try and pull ahead of him because it's now becoming a bit of a rivalry between us as teammates, and of course remain ahead of Nico Hülkenberg. And this is my favourite sector of the circuit, just the first one, just all the long left and right handers, just managing them as well as you can, just about getting the car set in the perfect position in the corner and being able to plant the power early. As you come up over the hill, we're a little bit down on pole position, but we're up on our delta as we come through. Spoon running it nice and wide, but getting the front end tucked in nicely, much better than I did on the previous lap. You can see the delta up by 1/10.5 there as we now charge down the back straight towards 130R. As we come across the split, we're about 7/10 down on pole position, but we're again up on our delta, nearly 2.5 up as we cross the line, and it puts us ahead of Sergio Perez and up to P7. So best of the rest behind the top three teams, and that is exactly how it remained. But Sebastian Vettel won pole position by less than 1/10 from Lewis Hamilton. Kimi Raikkonen a bit further back in third, and Bottas there less than half a tenth between Raikkonen and Bottas for third and fourth. Then the two Red Bull cars of Daniel Ricciardo leading Max Verstappen, and then it is ourselves in seventh, Perez in eighth, and then the two Renaults rounding out the top 10. So could be an interesting, hard-fought Grand Prix for the best positions. But let's get into the Japanese Grand Prix.
And a very warm welcome to the Japanese Grand Prix, an event that has decided a Drivers' Championship 11 times over the years and has hosted some very memorable races as well. Who can forget Kimi Raikkonen's win from 17th on the grid in 2005, or Kamui Kobayashi's incredible drive to a podium in 2012. A lap of this historic racetrack covers 3.6 miles, and it's the only time during the season that we race on a figure-of-8 racetrack. The drivers can expect some intense G-forces through the 18 corners on offer here as they experience some of the highest average apex speeds on the Formula One calendar. And keep an eye out for overtakes going into the final chicane. A warm welcome to Anthony Davidson, who's beside me in the commentary box today. Now, I want to ask you about Daniel Ricciardo. As ever, the threat of unreliability is never far away, and indeed they'll be starting out of position today due to a power unit component change. So it's going to be a difficult task to move forward from there.
Everyone has to deal with penalties or reliability issues from time to time throughout their career. You just have to suck up the pain and get on with the job at hand. Today isn't about performing a miracle to put the car back where it should be. It's about effective damage limitation.
We're in a better grip position than we were expecting. Let's see if we can hold on to it.
Let's indeed see if we can hold on to it there. You heard in the initial build-up, we have found ourselves jumped up into P6 because of Daniel Ricciardo's grid penalty. It's a one-stop going from the super soft to the medium tyres, so going to run a little bit extra fuel so we can burn it in rich and then hopefully manage the fuel throughout the race, as we have 5 red lights for the Japanese Grand Prix. Lights are out and away we go. Initially reacting well, but then bogging down on the start, as I usually do. Perez is coming up on the left there, and as we sweep into turn 1, Perez is going to be on the outside. We duck underneath, plant the throttle. Can we get through on Perez? A bit of contact there between us, tyre-to-tyre contact between the two Force Indias, but back ahead of Sergio Perez. You've got one of the Ferraris of Raikkonen's in the lead there. Vettel was dropped down into second place. He's fending off Hamilton. And then Verstappen and Bottas going side by side through the Schumacher S's. We're going to hold on to this because let's see if we can do anything around the outside of Verstappen. We've run out of road. We've made a bit of contact with the Dutchman, but now we're on the inside coming up to the first Degner corner. Can we stick our nose in? Verstappen tries to hold it around the outside, gets caught on the marbles, and that leaves us to take the inside line for Degner too, and that is us up into 5th position just behind the Ferraris and the Mercedes cars up ahead of us there. Then I had to really focus on getting some downforce on the back end in qualifying in the low fuel, because the back end was very lively and it meant the front then was very understeery throughout the race. As you saw then, the understeering wide through Spoon, and Verstappen now on the second lap of the race is going to try down the inside of 130R. We're going to try and hold it around the outside. Verstappen has to lift off. We have to go off the circuit, get a warning for exceeding those track limits, as of course all 4 wheels did go over the white lines, but I feel as if we had to take the wider line, otherwise we would have seen a potentially huge accident. Both Ferraris setting the pace early on there as we come through in the 33s, but we were battling Verstappen as we now try and break his slipstream a little bit, and this is Verstappen now trying to attack me into the hairpin a couple of laps later. Daniel Ricciardo has already made his way up the field to be back up behind Verstappen, and we're battling for the 5th place here. Verstappen gets a good exit though, and he's right up alongside me on the right hand side as we head towards Spoon. Verstappen is through. Can we try and re-attack him? He looks to make a defensive line into Spoon, but still leaves enough room for a Formula 1 car that we can dive down the inside. Took a little bit of curb there. It did compromise my run through the corner and push me out wide for the second part of Spoon. Thankfully, Verstappen wasn't able to accelerate too well, and that's dropped in behind me. And now he's going side by side with Ricciardo, who's picking up my slipstream now and is up into 6th place as Ricciardo tries again down the inside of 130R, but Ricciardo lifted out the throttle earlier than Verstappen did and wasn't able to make a move on me, but we've gone wide into the hairpin, taking too much curb through the second part. Ricciardo's had a better exit now. That could be lining him up for a move potentially into turn 1. Let's see. We haven't got DRS. Ricciardo does, and he's well past me on the right hand side of the straight with DRS open. And looking at the proximity arrows, Verstappen could be coming through as well, so we'll just lift off early. Verstappen carried so much speed through that corner, and I was like, my battle today is not with the Red Bulls. You know, I'd rather not waste time battling them. As much as I would have loved to finish ahead of them, they clearly have a lot more speed than I do. My battle is with my teammate Sergio Perez, and my tyres are shot by lap 5. You saw me understeering and sliding through Spoon as Perez has caught back up to me, but he's got a huge gap to the runner behind him, so this could be it. We could be the clear-cut 4th best team here in Suzuka as Perez tries to pass me at 130. Contact between the 2 Force India cars, but Perez not able to get through, and I just bring it down, slow it down into the chicane. Don't want anything too crazy coming through there, because the last thing we want to do is wipe both of ourselves out when we are on this progression to be the 4th best team. But Perez shoots out the final corner. Much higher speed, much more top end speed, maybe a better fuel mixture, obviously DRS, more battery. I just, you know, let Perez go. I ran it in rich and high to try and defend, but I couldn't, and Perez clearly has more speed than me at the moment, so I just released him. He's built a little bit of gap by the end of the lap, and he is not diving into the pit lane. I expected him to that early on, but some of the big boys are in the pit lane here. You've got a Red Bull, I think that was Ricciardo and Hamilton are in for super softs, Raikkonen on the soft compound tyre as well, so those guys look to be committing to a 2-stop strategy this afternoon, whereas of course ourselves are going to be doing the one from the super soft to the medium tyre. And then here we go, more cars. Another Ferrari in the pits. That is Sebastian Vettel. What tyre is he going on to? But we've got a VSC, actually, at the beginning of lap 8. Is that going to help Vettel get ahead of Raikkonen? No, it is not. So the VSC ends as we come through the Degner section. It allowed us to save a bit of fuel and save a battery all the way back up to the top. We've lost a little bit of ground to our teammate Perez, but nothing too major, as the next car that we are technically battling on the road is behind both Ferrari cars, and that hasn't caught up to us. So Perez goes on, so we are still getting the number 1 pit stop, our first coming in here. So let's see what we can do on an undercut versus Perez. Verstappen's on the medium tyre, so he's going on the same strategy as ourselves, so he could be a threat later on in the Grand Prix to the top flight drivers, because they've got to make an additional pit stop, whereas Verstappen does not. So, coming out on the medium tyres, Ricciardo's long gone through, Verstappen is there. We're coming out, look to be in a clear-cut 17th place. Sainz is behind on soft tyres, so he has to make another pit stop. I don't believe he started on those tyres. No, he was in the top. He was in the top 10, so he would have had to have started on super soft tyres. So it's now about getting our foot down and having this race-long battle with Sergio Perez. Effectively, he's coming out the pits at the end or at the beginning of lap 10 because he pitted at the end of the last lap, and he's still got a big old gap to me there. Does Sergio? So haven't really gained anything on an undercut. You know, even clearly those worn super soft tyres are better than these fresh mediums. But we do a personal best of a 32.5. So we're definitely getting the foot down. And we're going to try and close up to Perez because he's going to be hitting traffic before us. Another personal best on the follow-up lap, a 32.3 now. The gap to Perez down to 2 seconds. He passes Brendan Hartley, though, on the straight before turn 1. So that's obviously ideal for Perez using their superior engine power. And we're now closing up to Hartley at the end of lap 12, and we're going to catch him in a straight. So let's hopefully be able to do what Sergio has done and pass Brendan Hartley without losing too much time. We're a little bit too far back for my own liking, which means we're going to catch him right around 130R, but we've got a lovely slipstream off the back of the Toro Rosso, and we've actually gained quite a bit as he pulls us through the corner. That should enable me to just dive it down the inside of the chicane, but Hartley just didn't seem to think I was going. I should have committed to the move earlier, in all fairness. And then Hartley slows down through the sweeping right-hander final corner. That's cost me a bit of time. I checked the damage, no front wing damage, so I'm going to pull to the inside line, and we're going to be able to duck past him into turn 1, and somehow through the traffic, Perez has got ahead of Verstappen. Verstappen's lost a boatload of time because he's stuck behind Stoffel Van Dorn, and Perez has cleared both of them. So Verstappen very slow at this stage of the Grand Prix. We're on lap 13, near halfway distance. Verstappen losing time behind Van Dorn. Just look how slow they are into the braking zone of the hairpin. We nearly plough into the back of the Red Bull. Had to take avoiding action and going wide. That should give me better acceleration though, out of the corner. Let's see if we're just getting a slight slipstream off of Verstappen through towards the spoon curve. We're definitely closing as Van Dorn goes defensive, and that again slows Verstappen up. Van Dorn very much doing what Sorokin did in Singapore, just defending from everyone. I can't remember who quoted it, but said he was doing a bit of go-kart racing. But anyway, Verstappen gets through on acceleration up towards 130. We pull up behind Van Dorn. We're going to try and make a move on the inside line. Van Dorn gives us the room, thankfully, and then with a bit of rich and high. Now Van Dorn comes back at us into the chicane. Credit to Stoffel Van Dorn. We switch back underneath him and go right around the outside of the second part of the chicane, and then Van Dorn, you may have seen it in the mirrors there, pulled into the pits. Here we have it on a replay though. Van Dorn just diving it back down the inside. Full credit to him for racing there. That's more racing than we've seen Van Dorn do in the real life Grand Prix. But yeah, you see us accelerate there, and then in the background you see Van Dorn pull into the pit lane. But now we were released, and then more cars are in the pits. Ricciardo and Hamilton for their second stops of the afternoon, so they're now behind us. So we've now got Perez up in 4th, Verstappen 5th, and myself here in 6th position. And this is going to be a three-way scrap, I think, for 4th place for the rest of the Grand Prix, unless anyone else has to make a pit stop. I started losing touch with Verstappen a little bit. He regained some of his speed once he was released from traffic. Sainz was actually catching me at an alarming rate of knots, so that was something I needed to look at. So as confirmed by Jeff there, we're losing a bit of time to the car ahead. And actually we've got Sainz coming out of nowhere into turn 1. As I said there, we're going to have to be concerned about Sainz closing up on me on that soft compound tyre. But again, remember, he has to make another pit stop. And that's exactly what he did at the end of the lap. So we're saving a little bit of fuel. Meanwhile, Perez and Verstappen are starting to scrap up ahead of us. So that's going to start costing them time as they go side by side through turns 1 and 2, and then Verstappen, I think, has got him on the inside of turn 3. Perez going to try and fight back through the Schumacher races, but Verstappen finally through by the later part of it, and then I was just foot to the floor using all of my fuel, all of my battery available. We get near to a personal best after 11 laps on these tyres, and we're only 1.3 seconds behind Sergio Perez. And then the concern again was going back to my mirrors, because Lewis Hamilton on soft tyres is closing in. He's only 2.5 seconds behind us here, so I need to get this move made on Perez sooner rather than later, because he appears to be slowing down and not doing very well on as his medium tyres get more worn, whereas we appear to be more consistent. We've seen it throughout the season. We're more consistent as the tyres degrade and get more worn. So end of lap 20, we're going to try and get a run on Perez out of the chicane. The problem is that's my weakest corner on the circuit. I, within half a tenth, match my personal best. But again, even with rich and high, it's just not enough down towards turn 1. So we're going to have to try and pass Perez somewhere else. He was weaker in the corners. So what we're going to try now is I'm going to try and close up to him through the first sector. But no VSC. And what I don't want this VSC to do is do what it did in, if you cast your mind back to Italy, where I was catching Perez. And it ruined my momentum. And there you have it as well. Verstappen up in 4th now has a car issue. So he could be up for takings as well. You see Verstappen on lap 22 is much closer to Sergio Perez. I'm giving it everything through the Dunlop curve, even kicking up a bit of grass, but Verstappen slowing down in 4th. That's going to then push Perez back into me, and then overall going to push all of us back into Lewis Hamilton, who is now right on my tail in 7th place. And you just see Verstappen how slow he is through the hairpin. We have to go wide again due to a little bit of late braking. That should give me a better exit versus Sergio Perez. It's now lap 22. There's only 6 laps remaining if you include the one that we are on. And I've, of course, saved a little bit of fuel and a little bit of battery behind the VSC. Verstappen goes defensive, slows Perez down. We're not able to capitalise on the situation. I just go slightly wide in spoon, allows me to do an earlier exit. And here's Perez pulling out versus Verstappen. He's got no straight line speed, does Verstappen. And then Hamilton is on my right-hand side getting slipstream off of the Red Bull car. It's too wide into 130R. Hamilton lifts off the throttle and then drops back behind. So Perez up into 4th, Verstappen 5th, ourselves in 6th, Hamilton still in 7th place. Here we go, out of the final corner, rich mix, high battery, DRS flowing. Hamilton is on my right hand side, so am I going to be able to make a move on Verstappen? We pull to the left, no, Verstappen holds his line, Hamilton gets slowed up, we duck to the inside and get the pair of them through turn 2. They were busy squabbling, having their own issues, and they forgot about the Pink Panther, the Force India, just striking down the inside. But unfortunately, come the next lap, Hamilton had cleared Verstappen, and he's on faster tyres, faster car, and there's no point in fighting that one. He just charges past me ahead of 130R. I'm going to duck back down the inside of him, though, because he slowed himself down by pinching himself on the apex. So, you know, Hamilton, you had the move on me, similar to Raikkonen in Austria earlier this year. He had the move done, then just made a little bit of a mistake, but he's going to stay on my tail out of the final corner. And then we're going to pull to the right-hand side, break the slipstream. I kind of want to battle Hamilton here, but he's just so much faster. Look at the extra speed that he's carrying. Doesn't make a mistake into turn 1. That is Hamilton through up into 5th place. Now, my thinking here is he will catch Perez, and he will cost Perez time when he comes to overtaking him. So I just saved up a bit of fuel, saved up a little bit of battery, but Hamilton got alongside Perez into 130R, and then they are having a squabble. Perez is going to try and have a go at him round the outside of the chicane. Hamilton locks up! Hamilton again making a mistake while trying to overtake a Force India. That put him actually back into my clutches, but we're visibly closer to Sergio Perez now with 3 laps remaining, 25, 26 and at 27. We're getting a lovely tow off the back of Lewis Hamilton, saving up a nice bit of fuel. Probably should be saving up a bit more battery at the moment, if I'm honest, but I want to stay as close to these two as possible. Hamilton going to have another go at Perez at the end of lap 25, and Perez now visibly closer than ever. Can Hamilton get the move done down the inside of 130? Oh, looks like there was a tiny bit of contact between the two cars, and Hamilton gets pushed out wide. Perez locks up now into the chicane. Kept his car reasonably under control, though, so we're just going to have to wait, be patient. We're coming on to the penultimate lap of the Japanese Grand Prix. We have DRS this time around, and now we're up to rich mixture. Hamilton dives it down the inside of Sergio Perez, goes a little wide through turn 1, but that is it. Hamilton up into 4th position, Perez down to 5th, and now it's about, can we in the final 2 laps of the Grand Prix outdo Perez on sheer pace? Look at the amount of extra speed we're carrying through the Schumacher S's. We're going to drive clean around the outside of our teammate. Unbelievable grip I've still got in these tyres, and I have no idea what happened to Perez, unless he's got a car issue we weren't informed of over the radio. He all of a sudden just became very slow, but through on Perez. Lap 27, Sebastian Vettel has won the Japanese Grand Prix. Perez has dropped back into 7th place, so I would say yes, he definitely has some kind of car issue, as Ricciardo now is harrying me through the final chicane, but he's not going to come through. We've beat Perez outright, and both Red Bulls P5.
Good job, you did really well. Super driving.
Here come our winning drivers then, out onto the podium at the end of a thrilling Grand Prix. The drama and excitement are over, and it's time to let it all sink in. Congratulations to our top 3 today.
So, like I said, Sebastian Vettel has won the Japanese Grand Prix ahead of Kimi Raikkonen, and then 25 seconds back is Valtteri Bottas. That's even on the one-stop strategy. Bottas was that far back. Lewis Hamilton comes home 4th in the Mercedes, then ourselves there 5th, improving from our P6 grid position. Daniel Ricciardo pulled off the 2-stop successfully from P9 to finish less than a second behind me in 6th place. Then came Sergio Perez in 7th, still beating out Max Verstappen only by 0.6 of a second there. And then both Haas cars, because of their one-stop strategy, offset both Renaults, and the Renaults finished down in 11th for Sainz and 14th for Hulkenberg. They just weren't quick enough to make the one-stop strategy work, the two-stop strategy work, and both Haas cars just quick enough with the one-stop strategy there. It looked very close from Magnussen down to Hulkenberg, 10th down to 14th. They're only about 4 seconds covered that group of drivers. As we now fall down, and then Sirotkin a long way back in 15th, battling to the likes of Hartley. Alonso down in 17th, Van Dorn down in 18th. Horrible race for the McLaren team, and then both Saubers failed to finish the Grand Prix. Moving over to the Drivers' Championship side of things, we breach the 100-point barrier. We're up into 7th place with 108 points versus Hulkenberg's 95. The focus for the rest of the season is again remain ahead of Hulkenberg and see if Perez then can beat Nico Hulkenberg to get both Force India drivers to 7th and 8th in the driver standings. Moving over to the Constructors' side of things, Force India 164 points, Renault 136. So we are now clearly ahead of them and clearly the 4th best team. But let's have a chat with Claire.
The fans really seem to enjoy that. You made it look easy. You really looked in control of your car out there. Your team must be thrilled.
I mean, it was certainly brilliant to put on such a show for the fans, especially that move around the outside of Perez.
You had a bit of contact today. Who was at fault there?
I wouldn't say anyone was particularly at fault. I would say this is the contact that was made lap 1. And like I say, no one's fault, just racing.
You seem to have issues with fuel efficiency. Does your team need to invest in that area?
This is a question that's starting to annoy me because I do like to run the car into negative numbers and then save it later on. So I could go with no comment, but I'll just talk about the power unit.
Appreciate your time.
So here we go. This is the rivalry standings after the Japanese Grand Prix. Looking at it here, we're losing the rivalry to Hulkenberg by 1 point, and we're now drawing with Sergio Perez. We've got 2 points back versus our teammate here in the Japanese Grand Prix, and it's getting to crunch time with the rivalry with Hulkenberg. So we really need to make sure we get some results versus the German in the Renault there. Sportsmanship standing goes up a tiny bit, and then we move on to the R&D screen about saving or confirming adaptations. So we get the final chassis one just there. That's everything now locked in for all the upgrades we've already made. So then I can move on and finally continue the progress on that minor power upgrade on the powertrain that's been there for about 4 or 5 races now. And we can finally get that in place. That will come for the next Grand Prix, which is the USA Grand Prix at COTA. We're going on to the American leg of the calendar before we obviously jump over to Abu Dhabi, the finale. But guys, thank you very much for watching the Japanese Grand Prix. Leave a like if you did enjoy and comment any feedback down below. A really good one for us. Like I say, we beat both Red Bulls, both Renaults, and our teammate, which is exactly what I needed to do. You know, loving Suzuka. That first sector just so flying. It's so satisfying to get right and to be able to make a move late in the Grand Prix on my teammate around the outside on tyres that had done nearly 20 laps at that point was just, it was beautiful. Loved it. We're now moving on to a track I enjoy a lot less, which is COTA. And then after that, we have Mexico, which I really like, and then a couple of tracks that are kind of a bit iffy. So we're getting to the stage of the season where I don't really enjoy the circuits we're going to be racing on, but that's not going to hinder our performance at all. Please subscribe and enable them notifications to never miss an update that comes to the channel, and I will see you all next time.